Well, welcome back to another week's analysis behind the news. As you know, last week I reiterated the fact that I kind of like to look at photographs when I see them in connection to, well, any number of different subjects, because within those photographs you can find clues as to what's going on behind the scenes. I also like to ask questions that aren't brought up in the articles themselves. For instance, one of the things that's going around in regard to ISIS or ISIL, whichever you want to call it, is that they have all their money from these oil wells and oil fields that they've captured. Nobody asks the question, where did they get the money to capture those oil wells and oil fields to begin with? Certainly they had to have been funded. Certainly they had to have been armed. Where did they get their arms? Where did they get their leadership? Who are their leaders? How are they organized? None of this is coming out in the press at all. The only thing that we hear about is that they're beheading people, and so we have to go destroy them. But in the process of destroying them, we will also be nation building or nation destroying. One of the things, too, after they capture these oil fields, who buys the oil? Now, aren't the people that buy the oil or gas or whatever it is as complacent in this as complicit rather in this as ISIS? In other words, they're giving them the money, they're buying the materials from them. If these people are terrorists, why are they giving them the money? Another thing is that if the NSA can seem to know all about your bank account and mine and can shut us down at any time, and they can probably do that on an international scale. Are you saying, therefore, that all of this is cash? Now, somehow I kind of don't think so. I don't think somebody is going to a gas station, figuratively, with $10 million in their pocket to pay for this oil. It has to be transferred some way or another electronically. Can they not seem to find those electronic accounts if they can find others and just simply shut them down? How about hacking? Hacking works both directions, doesn't it? If they can hack into Home Depot and Target and even medical accounts, I just this last week got a notification of being hacked into a medical account that happened sometime back. And they got the name and the Social Security and some such things as that. They didn't get any credit cards, but they got a lot of pertinent information, and they let me know about it. So they can hack. Why can't we hack? Why can't we get in there and disturb them in these electronic transfers and any number of different things and trace these people around? You know, we could go a long way towards saving lives if we would just simply hack these people's accounts. Why do we need to send people into harm's way? Why do we need to be involved in nation building or destroying when we can do these things? You know, I was told by a friend quite some time back, it's been several years now, and he was involved in training Iraqi troops. And he said that you could not trust them. That they worked for the other side in many, many instances. What would happen is that they had to get to the point where they could not tell Iraqi army troops where they were going to eliminate the terrorists, because they would phone ahead and let them know they were coming, so that these people would be ready for them when our forces or the Iraqi forces or any combination would show up. And so they wouldn't tell them where they were going. And they would only go out and tell them where they were the moment they were supposed to go in for an attack. But then the other side was always ready in Iraq, these terrorists, because these Iraqi army people would get on their cell phone and say, hey, we're coming in, get ready, and these are the kinds of troops we have, and these are the weapons we have, and we're coming in this way, and we're going to have a feint around the other way, and so be ready. So then they started taking the cell phones away from the Iraqi troops before they went in. So this idea that you can't trust the Iraqi troops to do what we thought was right showed up when the ISIS forces came in. They said these Iraqi troops just dissolved. Now, the poor ones that really did believe they're supposed to oppose these people and got captured, then they were all shot. But that's the kind of problems that we had with the Iraqi army a long time ago. And yet we were told by our leadership in Washington, D.C., that we can leave because we've accomplished our mission and we've trained the Iraqis to defend themselves. The same way in Afghanistan. So these things go on a lot, and we have to keep asking these questions constantly in order to understand what's really happening. Because there's a lot of these questions that are unanswered, that need to be answered. And we need to think about these things logically. Here's another one that I saw this last week in USA Today, you know, the paper. And this is al-Qaeda 13 years later. Well, you see by this map, you can't see this gray area. It's a map of the North Africa and the Middle East. But here in the subcontinent, but at any rate, here it shows that al-Qaeda is in Afghanistan. And of course, that's why we invaded Afghanistan to begin with, right? Well, now it shows the growth of al-Qaeda throughout Africa and the Middle East, that our war on terror is failing, that al-Qaeda has grown larger. And ladies and gentlemen, it has grown larger because our policy is flawed. It was never designed. I come from a school that says it was never designed to succeed. It was designed to build more terrorism. And anybody that's got any common sense can take a look at the flawed policy of what we're doing in Libya and Egypt particularly, that the federal government and the McCains of the world were very much involved in getting rid of the existing government to be replaced by al-Qaeda and other terrorist organizations, the Muslim Brotherhood, so on and so forth. Libya wouldn't be full of al-Qaeda today if Gaddafi still ruled that country. I'm not saying he was a good guy, but you understand what I'm saying, is that by getting rid of that stable government, we created the conditions for al-Qaeda to come in. And it still shows in here that al-Qaeda is in Afghanistan. Now there's another country that we're told that's mission accomplished. Well, the mission was to get rid of al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is still there. So the question has to be, what is going on? Why are we losing? Why is al-Qaeda still in Afghanistan if we took care of the problem and now we can get out? Now, you can argue whether we should have gone in to begin with and everything else. I'm not going there. You probably know we thought that the whole thing was phony to begin with here in the John Birch Society. But all of these things are failures. But are they really failures in the general scheme of things? We don't think so. We think that they are failures to help build the New World Order. Here's another one. Here's in the paper again. To kill ISIS, back Kurdish nation. So now we're saying that we need to even muddy the waters up even more in order to get rid of ISIS. And in this case, what they're saying is that we need to build up a nation for the Kurds. We're supplying the communist Kurds, and the Kurds are in Syria, they're in Turkey, they're in Iraq, and they're in Iran. And so now we say that in this here, that we need to build a new country for the Kurds. Now that's all well and good if the Kurds can do it, but what business is that of us? It's none of our business. And we're going to tell Turkey, who has been an ally or a nominal ally or whatever for many, many years, that we're going to take a hunk of your country, we're going to take a hunk of this one and a hunk of that one, and just tick everybody off in the region by saying this is no longer part of your country. It now is part of this new Kurdish nation, which has a heavy communist influence within the Peshmerga army and that sort of thing, as we pointed out last week in other segments on this thing. So basically my message this week is this. Start thinking about questions that are unanswered. What are they not talking about in some of these columns and stories on in these areas? Because there's an awful lot of unanswered questions as to who is behind all of this terrorism. This money's coming from somewhere. The arms are bought from someone. Somebody is giving them that money. If you take a look, the answer basically is three areas: Peking, Moscow, and Washington. And if you don't think they're not working together on this, you haven't studied terrorism well enough. Until next week, we'll see you then.